Yeah, good morning. While I was driving up here, I was thinking about the time when I was a little boy and I would get $1 from the tooth fairy every time I lost a tooth.
$1?
And if there was a hair lady, I would now be a millionaire. The point I want to make is that as things age, they deteriorate. And as they deteriorate, we have to plan for its eventual replacement or repairs. My presentation today is going to focus on before I go any further, I do have some handouts. I've got about 21 of those. And then I would have my card. If you don't get one, please send me an email or something, and then I can certainly send this to you. So if you could just distribute this and maybe leave these cards in the back so I have your contact information. My focus today would be on 3 elements. One is to show you a little bit about some of the studies that have been done to show how much money is needed to replace what you've got. Secondly, I want to focus on the fact that nationally the demands are decreasing, so the revenue source is also decreasing. On one hand, you have an increasing need, and on the other hand, you have a decreasing revenue stream. And then I will also focus on some of the steps that you can take in trying to get some funding. And mind you, the funding mostly has to come from water rates. There are some programs for other funding sources, but they're pretty limited. First of all, design life of the various components of your water system are highlighted here. You have treatment plants, they're probably going to last you about 60 to 70 years. And trunk mains, another 65 to 95 years, depending on what type of soil you have. In some cases, if you have aggressive soils, that could be 65 years. If you have good soil, like sand, it could be a lot more. Pumping stations, if you have concrete stations, concrete structures, they last about 70 years. And then the distribution system is 60 to 95 years. So when you are looking at how much money you need, you have to keep in mind that you have to be able to fund these improvements as you go along. Most of the drinking water was constructed during the World War II. This is a sample of this is a kind of a sample of this is a sample of some of the mains that have been dug up from various places. Most of your distribution system was actually constructed at the turn of the century, and the major installation occurred just after the World War II, and a lot of our troops came back and started families, and expansion happened. I mean, there was hundreds and hundreds of miles of pipe that was laid for new housings. What is the condition of our infrastructure? Nationally, I'll share some statistics with you. In Baltimore, they have 3 main breaks a day. In the Midwest area, look at what's happening in Duluth. 140 main breaks a year. Looking at that, a typical main break costs about $10,000. By the time you dig it up, repair it, reconstruct the road, restore it, all of that kind of stuff. And so they are spending about $1.4 million in trying to repair what they've got. Now, Hibbing has got about, they spent about $600,000 to $700,000 just fixing their existing main breaks, and St. Paul has got 140. Now, if you saw the papers in early February, you saw that there was a 20-inch water main that broke in St. Paul. They lost about 1.75 million gallons of water. The cost of that water alone was $42,000. Not considering the fact that they had to do this repair in an emergency, they had to pay overtime to their people, they had to repair, and they were lucky. I mean, this water main happened near downtown, and as you know, the downtown kind of slopes towards the river. So when the main break happened, all the water, instead of going in people's basement and flooding their basements and things like that, actually went to the river. So they were saved in that way. Otherwise, they could have been hundreds and thousands of dollars in claims on the property owners. A new study was done by American Water Association, captioned "Buried No Longer," and they're looking at, they looked at what the needs are for from 2011 to 35. It's about $1.2 trillion, almost $1 trillion. If you look at the long term from 2011 to 2050, it's about 1.75 trillion. Half of that, almost half of that, is because of growth, and more than half is for replacing the existing infrastructure. So the needs are enormous. There was a study done in 2008 for Minnesota, and they said that they need about $5.46 billion in the next 20 years. So the needs are quite staggering. But this is a rating system that was developed by the American Society of Civil Engineers, and they said that this almost 11% of your infrastructure is poor, and then 23% very poor. So we have a big problem on our hand to be confronting. Now, what do we do on the international scale? We spend about 2.4% of our GDP on infrastructure replacement. Look at what other people are doing. Europe spends about double that, and China is spending 9%. And we have one of the lowest rates for water and wastewater in the entire developed country. So we are not paying enough for our water and wastewater, and others are doing. Because we do not, although we can live without electricity, we can live without several other things, but we cannot live more than 6 days without water. But we have not been able to prioritize and say, yes, it is important. And if you look at the trends of water use that's happening, this is the population growth, and these are groundwater, surface water, and the total. This is the total, and you can see that in the 80s they were quite high. The rates were going up, usage was going up. But look what's happening after 1980, going down or stable. So the demand, so the amount of water that's being used is going down. And if you look at the water public supply, this is it's not very clear, but you can see that although this is the total that we use, and then the water supply is kind of decreasing also. This is the national trend. What do we see locally? What do we see in Minnesota? This is a graph for St. Paul, and you can see that their demand are also decreasing. This is a graph for city of Plymouth, and this is the per capita use, and you can see that the per capita use is going down. There is an increase in demand, but that demand is primarily because of growth. The per capita demand is going down. This is a graph that shows some of the other cities that I have done data for, and if you look at Minneapolis, demands are going down. If you look at East Grand Forks, they're kind of going up and down, but the trend is downwards. And in every city that I have worked with, the per capita demand is going down. And there's a study that was done and published in the American Journal for American Waterworks, and they said that there is a decrease of 0.5% a year throughout the country.
Is that for conservation and rates?
They said there are two reasons that's happening. One is that the size of the families is decreasing. The second reason is because people are installing more efficient fixtures. Now, if you remember, in 1994, the Congress passed a rule that was called the Energy Policy Act, which said that after 1996, you cannot manufacture fixtures like toilet fixtures that use more than 1.6 gallons per flush. And they also have standards for water faucets and things like that. If you look at it, before 1985, the standard was 3.5 gallons. Before 1980, it was 7 gallons. So you've gone from 7-gallon flushes to 1.6. And now they have come up with a better, more efficient fixtures which use only 1.28 gallons per flush. Initially, as you remember, when they installed these new fixtures, they didn't work so well. You had to double flush sometimes. Now that has been taken care of. New designs are doing that. So if you look at nationally what's happening, 0.5%, now you may say, well, 0.5% is not a big deal. It's not a very big deal. But if you accumulate that over a period of, say, 5-7 years, you're looking at quite a significant drop. One thing that's happening is all over the country, the water quality that we were used to has all been used up. Good quality water has been used up. Now they are using water that's kind of brackish or sometimes has other chemicals in it. So in order to treat that water, we're using much more chemicals. Now, for example, the city of Hibbing, their population is decreasing. But they have infrastructure. What can they do? They can't shut down part of the city, say, well, we're not going to supply water to you. So you have a dilemma there. What do you do? Now, with the decreasing demand that you have, there is a push to increase rates. Most of the cities are looking for some help. And Congress is working on that. But main revenue stream is going to be water rates. And it's not popular to increase water rates. Every politician thinks that raising water rates is suicidal. If they raise water rates, people are going to be upset and they may not vote for them. I've done some 30 some rate studies. And when we have put together a good presentation to show the politician what the needs are, invariably they have agreed with my recommendation to increase rates. Some of the things that you can do internally is look at your asset management, try to develop some plans that would take care of maintenance as you go along. You can maintain an accurate inventory. Now, I've told you earlier this morning that there is a life of every project, estimated life of. No, start putting together a depreciation schedule that shows the politician, well, your system was worth $8 million in 2010. In 2013, it's only 7.5. So you can show them that you're not funding the infrastructure that you need to, and your assets are going down. And ultimately, if you keep that trend down, it will be catastrophic. Your system will be worthless. You can look. There's 1/4 of most of the utilities do not fully fund the water rates. 1/4 of the municipal. 1/4 of the municipalities don't charge enough water rates that cover the full cost of water. That's what EPA says. Now, if you start raising rates, there is a sentiment out there. Well, you're going to raise the rates on the elderly. You can have some special rates for them, right? There are times when you have to recover the full cost of expansion of the system, because when you start, the city starts growing, all the cost that's involved in expanding the system should be recovered by those, and that should be a policy that the city should have. You can develop assessing the condition of the water system. You can develop managerial capabilities. All of that is internal. And the most important thing you have is to communicate effectively with the people and with the boards. And you can give them information about number of breaks, how much they cost to repair. You tell them how the age of the structure and how much is left. Now, what Duluth did is they went ahead and did all of that. And the mayor made a presentation. They convinced the mayor that this is not the way to go. We can't spend $1.4 million a year and keep patching the system. So now Duluth has a program in which they're going to be spending $4 million a year for replacing water mains that are, I mean, they're prioritizing those, but they're spending $4 million, and this is going to go on for as far as you can see. And then you can also show them where you are with depreciation. Now, the other thing you can do is you can conduct a rate study, and typically what you do is you have to have somebody outside to do it because somebody that comes with a briefcase has most credibility. I don't know why, but it does. And then you can develop some rates that do depreciate. Rates should fund the full depreciation. The other thing you can do is you can set up a citizen advisory committee so that this advisory committee can become your advocate. Now, most of us, what we do is we do our job, we go home, and we're happy. We are not good communicators. And we can set up a rate committee, and that committee can then become your advocate for rate increases. You have to treat your community as partners. It's not that you do your job and you don't consider them as partners. And then you have to meet with the stakeholders and find out have them on board for what you're doing. You can set up conferences, you can give some information to the media. Now we all are media shy, but this is important to tell them, give information, and I'll give you an example of what Brooklyn Park has been doing and how successful they have been in getting money for what they want to do. This is an example of what Brooklyn Park has done. They have a long-term strategy plan developed. They show in a very distinct manner where the improvements are going to be and when they're going to be doing it and how much. You can't really see it, but it has all the information. They also have what is called a condition assessment. They develop condition assessment. They show, this is a report. They talk about where the system was in 1991. They had about 15,000 customers. Now they have almost 22,000. They have 190 miles of main, and they now have a lot more. And he also had developed a rating system in which he says how much of the system is all right, adequate, marginal, and then the last one is problem. So he rates the entire system that he's got into various categories so the politician can see where the needs are. He also has, the city also has a very clear comparison of water quality, some of the issues that are there. He has the green. John Thiel is the person who authorized this. He has green, and they tell about the raw water and what the finished water is like, and he tells about water quality, hardness, organic. All of those things are rated. So he says, is that adequate? And this is anybody can look at this and say, yeah, this is where the problem is. So it's very clear to the politician as to what. Now, how many of you want more staff members to do this in your department? Raise your hands. No? Everybody is okay with what they... Now, what you all, when I go and meet people, they say, well, I'm really stressed, I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm overworked. That's the comment I commonly hear. What Brooklyn Park does is they actually track the activities over the year, and how many of these meters and things like that, and they actually say, okay, based on the hours that are needed, we have to have 6.4 FTE in that department. And when you go to a politician, they say, we want to cut cost. They present this information. Which of the services don't you want? I can cut 2 people. But these are the services that we are providing. Which other services don't you want? It's very difficult for the politicians to say, cut this service or that service. They make a blanket statement. We want you to be more efficient. Okay, we can be more efficient. We can do less work, cut people. But which one of the services that you tell us don't you want? And most of them say, no, we want all the services, but we want you to cut the cost. Well, that's not going to happen because they can only work so many hours. This is a comprehensive maintenance program that they have. They go and look at the water mains, valves, fire hydrants, water services, water meters, and this is sewer. So he says, well, red is a problem, marginal, adequate. So he rates them according to this chart that he has developed for every district. And this is and what he does is he communicates that every 6 months to the council. He says, I want to give you an update on where you are at with the water system and the sewer system. And this is what they get. So they can look at it and see what the condition of the system is. This is what they do for the rating system that they have. He has 8 to 4 is adequate, marginal is 1.9 to 2.9, and problem is, and then he rates every element: structure, process equipment, aeration, contact. This is part of the water treatment plant now I'm talking about. And he rates SCADA system, metering system, all of that. So the council is constantly aware of where the needs are. And nothing is a surprise for them then when they're looking at all of this. We have to keep in mind that most of the revenue is going to come from rates. There are some programs out there that you can tap, like PFA and all the other ones, but they are primarily all these improvements are going to be coming from rates. So rates are going to go up. That's the only way they're going to be. And based on the literature that I've read, they are going up at a rate of about 4.5% to 5% a year throughout the country. Now, leadership, and if you convey the needs in a clear, concise manner to the politicians and to everybody else, you would get the money. And if you look at what is happening, 73% of referendums for improvement were passed when there was leadership, and they provided the information clearly and work on a program to develop support for increasing water rates. 73%. That's a pretty good success ratio. As I mentioned earlier, water professionals are not very good at communicating, and I include myself in that. We do our work and we go home and we are happy. We need to step up further and go one step further and start communicating all of that. The only time they hear from you is when there's a water main break, there is some failure on treatment, or there is some other issue that they are is a problem. They never hear from there's never an article in the paper wherein they say, well, Gary Schreifel did a good job, or this person did a good job. Always are waiting for some failure to occur. It'll become, if you look at the February issue of, I don't remember the date, but if you look at that, the article in Minneapolis Tribune, Star Tribune, was front page when they had a main break, 20-inch main break. But they never heard, there was no news for several years or months that they are supplying good quality water. St. Paul has done a very good job of taking care of taste and odor in their water. If you have any experience there, you probably noticed that. But there's nothing on that. And Brooklyn Park has spent almost $25 million in the last 10 years because they were able to communicate the need and were able to build support with the community, with the council, and so they were able to do all of that. The conclusion is that you are not alone. There are many water systems that face a backlog in their maintenance. There are older pipes are going to leak more and more as you move forward, as the system ages. And you are going to be asked to lay new pipe in areas that are being developed to supply services like expansions of their water system, and that has to be funded by the people that are needing the service. That should be very clear. And as leakage and breakdown breaks occur, the cost of operating the system is going to increase. For example, we had that one water main break in St. Paul. That cost them over $60,000. As more and more of those things happen, the cost of maintaining the system is going to keep growing. We will need rate increases. EP estimated that if utilities were to increase their revenue 3% a year above inflation, they will still need $45 billion in the next 20 years to replace the water. So the push is going to be to increase water rates. And then if you don't increase any growth, your shortfall is going to increase dramatically. And with that, I'll open up for questions. Yes?
Per capita, gallons per day per capita, is that based on what you totally pumped divided into your population, or just the gallons that you sold to your customers divided into the population? And then if we could get if I call you or whatever, could I get a list of everybody that you've got so we can see if we're in compliance? Because I do them both already right now.
Sure.
So
the question, I hope you heard the question. The question is, you base the per capita consumption on the total pumpage or what you bill? And typically, it's based on how much you bill.
bill per the residents or for the whole?
What you do is you take the total bill, divide that by the population, and that's per capita consumption. Now, mind you, we lose about 14% of our treated water in our water system. So there's almost 14 billion gallons a day is lost. Yes. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Naeem? I've got a mic here.
Here we go.
State your name and where you're from.
In the St. Paul incident that happened that we all saw on TV, I was wondering, it was a contractor doing some construction work that fell through and damaged the water line. I was wondering who's responsible for that cost.
Well, there were two things that happened. One was in Minneapolis, the contractor drilled through a 30-inch water main. I'm talking and about 3 or 4 weeks later, this happened in St. Paul. So there are two incidents that happened. One was not caused because of failure. The other one in St. Paul was caused by a failure. The first one was by a contractor who did this out of ignorance or whatever. He drilled right through the 30-inch water main. He thought it was lower, and it was not. So that was an accident.
Yeah, I think the backhoe tipped right on it, didn't it?
Yep.
All fell in and cracked the main. Any other questions for Naeem?
Yes.
One over here?
I'm a big mouth.
All right.
On replacing of the mains, what do you think of the lining of water mains, where they cut out the valves and then they line between valves?
Yeah, if you know that in 1962, the cement mortar lining became a standard for ductile iron pipe. And if you have pipes that are older than that, one way of lengthening their life, getting more out of them, is to line the pipes. And some of the cities are doing that. Minneapolis is one that they're doing this now. So that's one way of getting 10, 15 years more life out of the pipe.
But that's about all you can get.
Yeah. It depends, I should qualify that. It depends on the soils.
Yeah.
If If you have corrosive soils, that's not gonna help.
Yeah, a lot of times when where we're lining is in real hot soil.
Yeah, that is not gonna help, because corrosion is gonna happen.
How about one more question, anybody? If not, let's give Naeem a round of applause.